put the date on here. And the time. Okay, if you can introduce yourself, Ma, tell us your name, your full name.
My name is Meddie Katherine Wilkes Patterson. Is that good enough?
That's right. You get 1 point. What's your address?
1002 Lomas Court, Richmond, Virginia 23229.
And what?
Been here almost 25 years.
Oh, okay. What state were you born in?
Virginia,
What city?
Bedford County, out in the country in a little log cabin.
You know? Was it really log cabin?
It was a log cabin on Grandma, on the Wilkes property. Their mom and daddy didn't want to live in the big house. They wanted to live in a little log cabin down at the side of the road. So that's where you and I were both born in there.
Thought she was making a date. Making it up. How old are you?
75.
What's your birthday?
8/18/18.
All right. And what were your parents' names?
Elsie Mae Arrington Wilkes and Hayman Roger Wilkes.
Okay. Do you speak any foreign languages?
No.
What's your astrological sign?
Leo.
Are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right.
Are you nearsighted or farsighted?
Neither one.
She's wears glasses if Gail wants her to.
Are you overweight or underweight?
Neither one.
What is your height
5'5".
and your eye color?
Brown.
You do wear corrective lenses.
Mm-hmm.
This is like an exam. And you are widowed?
Right.
What was your maiden name?
Meddie Katherine Wilkes.
What was your spouse's name?
Omar McKinley Patterson, Jr.
And what was your anniversary date?
Beg your pardon, January the 8th, 1943.
How many children do you have?
2.
How many grandchildren?
2 girls. I have 4 grandchildren, 2 girls and 2 boys.
And what are their names?
Well, Gail's children are David Brookings and Katie Brookings. Jane's children are Eric Davis and Christy Davis.
Okay. What was your occupation, or is your occupation?
Now?
Or what was it? What occupations have you had?
Well, I was a telephone operator for 5 years, and I worked in a bank as a secretary and a teller for about 6 months while Pat was overseas. When he came back from overseas, I quit.
Okay.
I was one of the first women tellers during the war, because they were just beginning working with women. And a lot of men wouldn't even come up to our window. They resented women being tellers.
What is your religion?
Baptist. Now, I was a Methodist until I was 25 years old. Then I changed over to the Baptist because Pat was Baptist.
What is your political affiliation?
That's the secret.
Do you live in the suburbs or in the city?
Suburbs. Michael County.
You live in a house. Are you allergic to anything?
No.
What's your blood type?
Don't know.
What is your, well, we know what your voice sounds like. We can hear you. What have been the names of your pets?
Lucifer and Beauty. Beauty was the red bird dog that I had when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lucifer was one that just came to the house when we lived in Petersburg.
A dog.
So,
What's your nickname?
Ma.
That's right.
It's the only nickname I ever had.
Okay. Let's see what you haven't answered here. Do you know your grandmother's names?
Mm-hmm. On the Wilkes side, my daddy's side, her name was Molly Stevens Wilkes. It was Mary Jo, I think they called her Molly. Mm-hmm. And then her husband's name was Samuel John Thomas Wilkes. That was on my daddy's side. And on Mama's side, her name was Rosalie Martin. And Grandpa's name was John William Martin Arrington. No, John William Arrington.
How about your grandfather's names?
They are my grandfathers.
Oh, I'm not paying attention. You
Great interviewer.
They are my grandfathers.
All right.
I don't know anything any further back.
What did you call them? Did you have any pet names for them?
Well, Mama's parents were Grandma and Grandpa, and Daddy's parents were Grandmother and Grandpap.
Were they born in America?
Mm-hmm. All down in the Lynchburg area, Lynchburg, Bedford County.
Do you know what circumstances brought them to the Lynchburg area?
No.
Do you have brothers or sisters?
I have one sister living, Ruth Harvey, and one brother living, Kenneth Allen Wilkes.
How old were you when they were born?
I'm 18 months older than Ruth, and I'm 8 years older than Kenneth.
Do you remember the first time you saw them?
I remember playing with Kenneth and holding him as a baby. I used to rock him and take him out in the carriage.
Okay. What about your aunts and uncles?
What about deceased brothers?
Oh, yeah, deceased brothers.
Yeah, I have two deceased brothers, Floyd Duval. He's older, he's 18 months older than me. And then Haman Elwood Wilkes, who died January 93.
Okay. Do you remember your aunts and uncles?
Yeah, Daddy had,
I think Elwood was 94 and Annie was 93.
that's right, I beg your pardon. Elwood was 94, and Nana died in January 93, and Elwood died January 19th, 1994.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the last question?
Do you remember your aunts and uncles?
I only have one living aunt right now, my Aunt Lillian Gallia in Lynchburg. But Mama had 3 sisters and 3 or 4 brothers, and Daddy did too. He had several sisters and brothers.
Did the family get together much casually, or did you have to travel and dress up to spend time
Had to
together?
travel to go see all of them, most of them.
Do
I
you-
mean the grandparents and aunts and uncles.
Do you remember any special aunts and uncles?
Not particularly.
Was there someone your family was particularly proud of?
Well, all of them. Everybody.
Was there anyone of whom your family was not so proud?
No. Not that I
I didn't
know
write
of.
these questions.
Any convicts in the past?
Oh, was your family a religious family?
Moderately so, I guess.
Did you all attend services together?
Some.
Were they dress-up affairs?
Yeah, you dress up to go to church, sure.
Some of these questions are strange.
Mom always made us a new dress for Easter. When we were kids, remember that? A little print dress, we always had a new dress for Easter.
And they're still doing that. Mommies are still making kids new aren't they? A few questions on the house you grew up in. What did your home look like when you were growing up? We've got some pictures of it, as a matter of fact.
You've got pictures of it. Well, we didn't have central heat like they have now. I remember there was a big heat troll, a big space heater like in the dining room. And that was the main heat. And then there was a little heater of some sort in the bathroom. And then we got heat in the kitchen and dining room from the coal stove. That put out heat. And then in the mornings we would run and get dressed behind the space heater because our bedrooms didn't have any heat.
So it was a house.
Oh, yes, it was a house.
Remember what color it was?
Yellow. Still yellow.
Was it made of stone or wood?
Wood.
One story or two?
Well, it was one floor. It was one floor and has a basement. And then when Kenneth came along, they finished the upstairs and put bedrooms upstairs. But when I was a kid, they was just the one floor. But then the boys went upstairs to sleep.
Can you remember the view out of any of your windows in your home?
Well, look at the back when you can see the railroad. There was a vacant lot below us where we used to play, and that's where Daddy had his garden.
This is in
And then this is in Roanoke, And then you can see the railroad from my back door, the back window.
Okay.
Give the address and
The address there is 1630 Mormon Road, Northwest, Roanoke.
Do you remember what your neighbor's houses looked like?
Pretty much the same. They're all the same type houses.
Okay. Any stores nearby?
We used to walk, not now, we used to walk about several blocks to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
There was one over on the corner of Mormon Road, over the corner of Loudon Avenue, 17th Street. That was the grocery store. We used to walk over there. And then Mama would order groceries over the telephone, and they would deliver groceries a lot, too. And there was another grocery store down on Melrose Avenue, McCrae Grocery. We used to walk down there at the grocery store, and there was also a drugstore down there.
Okay.
And we used to walk to that.
Christy has a question.
Yes?
What school did you go to?
Monroe Elementary from the 1st grade through the 8th. And then I went downtown for junior high, 9th and 10th, and Jefferson High School for the 11th and 12th. I finished Jefferson High School in 1936.
Is that where you met Daddy?
I knew him. He was in some of my classes, one of my classes in Jefferson High School, and I knew him then. And then later on, he was working at Caldwell Sites. He and Bus were both working at Caldwell Sites, which was next to McClellan's downtown. And Ruth was working in McClellan's, and I was working at the telephone company. And I'd go down and talk to Ruth while she was working, and then Bus and Pat would come in the back door there and talk to us. And then I said Ruth was already going with Bus. And then that's when Pat asked me for a date, and you know the rest of the story.
The rest is history. What was your bedroom like?
Well, Ruth and I shared a bedroom till I was 25 years old and left home. 24, rather. We shared the same bedroom, same bed, same closet, dresser.
Can you remember the carpeting or wallpaper or pictures on the wall or anything in your bedroom?
Not in the bedroom. I have one of the pictures now that came out of the dining room. But I don't remember any of the other pictures. Except in the living room, there was these big pictures that I have here in my house now, these big baby pictures.
Which bedroom were y'all in, Nanny?
One that Nana was in, that was
The front?
no, the back. That was mine and Ruth's room.
Okay.
And Mom and Dad had the front bedroom.
Did you sleep with a stuffed animal or doll?
No, I slept with my sister.
One room for one.
Can you remember what you daydreamed about as you looked out your bedroom window?
No, I don't think I had any daydreams.
What time did the mail come? Morning, afternoon?
When did Iceman come?
I don't know, about probably the middle of the day like it is everywhere else.
You remember getting anything in the mail that made you particularly excited?
Well, not till I was grown and Pat was overseas and I'd get mail from him.
Mm-hmm.
Get a letter every day from him. I used to come home from the telephone company and walk all the way up the hill from Melrose Avenue to Mormon Road to get a letter. I did that, every day. I'd call Mom and ask if I had any mail. And she'd tell me I did. Then I'd run home on the bus and run up that hill and get the mail and run back down the hill and go back to work. I did that for a year. That was my jogging. That was my exercise.
Do you know who your best friend was in the neighborhood?
Was Irene Whitaker in the neighborhood. And had other friends too, but that was the closest one in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Did y'all play at your homes or mostly in the streets and playgrounds and fields and stuff?
Well, we played at each other's houses, and we played ball out in the middle of the street. And
Do you remember anything about your friend's house or their family?
no, they just had a big family like we did.
Did you ever play house?
Not really. Not a whole lot. I used to play school, but I didn't play house that much.
Okay.
No.
Did boys play with girls?
Sure.
Were they separate?
Hmm.
Yes?
I
How
was
many
a,
boyfriends do you have?
I was a tomboy. I played horseshoes and rode wagons and played ball, and I was a real tomboy. But our playground was
Where it came from.
our playground was in the middle of the street.
Was there a neighborhood bully?
No.
That's good.
Policeman on your corner, didn't you?
Policeman lived next door.
That would help.
That would help. Do you remember any sidewalk games you played?
Hopscotch. And Rover, Red Rover come over, and the game that you play back and forth across the sidewalk. There's a Rover, Red Rover. And play hopscotch,
Did you jump rope?
jump rope.
Do you remember any rhymes you said when you jumped rope? That's what it says.
No, I know there were some, but I don't remember any of them.
Did you collect anything as a child?
No. Mm-mm.
All right, Christy.
What was your favorite book when you were growing up?
Well, I don't know of any in particular.
What's your favorite book now?
What about your school? Was it a big school, elementary school?
The elementary school, and then you went to elementary school the first grade through the 8th, and it was in walking distance. That's why Dad and Mama bought the house where they did, because it was near a school. And then we had an hour for lunch. We came home for lunch. Mom had hot lunch for us every day. Only time we took lunch to school was if it was snowing on the ground, we got to take a sandwich and get to drink chocolate milk.
How's that?
Yeah, we liked the chocolate milk.
And it was a public school?
Public school, and they never closed because of snow.
Oh.
In Roanoke? Wow.
Everybody walked there.
Snow up to your knees.
Was the school in a residential neighborhood with lots of trees?
That was why people wanted to live in that area, because of the school.
You remember what the school building looked like?
They've torn it down since then, built something else on. That was on the corner of, you know where the tennis courts are, down on the corner of 15th Street. It was right down on that.
Near your church?
No, it was, but this was between 16th and 17th Street, down on Melrose. No, the church was down on the corner of 13th.
Do you remember sitting at long tables, or did you have individual desks?
Individual desk.
Do you remember sitting next to anybody in particular? Let's go. A long way.
Well, you're not asking me this.
How about, I'm glad I'm not being answered what I'm not being anyway. What was the playground like at school?
Oh, we had a big playground. We got out at lunchtime, played games and volleyball and
They have a swing set?
swing sets, I guess. I don't remember
Who
swing
was your first
sets.
boyfriend? Well, you gotta get something interesting, man.
I'm trying. She had a question.
Yeah, Mama. Who was your first boyfriend?
At what age?
Well, your first one. 2 or 5 or however old you were when you had first boyfriend.
Well, I came home from school. Mama said the first day and said, I got a boyfriend. His name's Omar Milton. And first name was Omar. I ended up with Omar. And when we were in high school, he was in the same high school I was in, at Jefferson High School. Of course, we didn't know each other and we didn't make any contact, but he was in the same school I was in.
Did you play with older kids, or did you stick with your own age group?
My own age group.
Do you remember being afraid to enter the first grade?
No.
Do you remember learning something important like cursive writing or learning to read? Or
I remember children then had locker writing, and that was one of our subjects. And that was a very important subject. I don't think the children do it now, but we had locker writing. In fact, I have locker writing certificates.
You never played at school, right?
That was in high school.
I think that's where they put a little cross on the 7. It's the only thing I know about locker writing. I heard teachers used to say that. You know, you write a 7 and you put a little cross across the stick or
That's
something.
French, huh?
Well,
We didn't.
Do you like your birthday, or do you dread it?
I like it.
What birthday do you remember most often from your childhood or your youth? Or do you remember any one particular?
No one in particular.
What kind of parties did you have for birthdays?
We didn't have any parties. Mom always made us a cake, but we didn't have any parties. We had a cake. We didn't have any parties.
Hallmark invented all that.
It was way before Hallmark.
Did anyone ever give you a surprise party?
No. Yes, I had a surprise shower when I was pregnant with Jane. That was my first surprise, the only surprise shower I ever had.
Were you surprised?
I was surprised. I was really surprised.
When you were growing up, did you have a Christmas tree in your house?
Not as a kid, no.
Did you hang stockings?
No, we had little shoe boxes over in the corner. No, that's one of the children won't remember. We all had a shoe box.
Did you ever spend Christmas away from home?
No.
Oh, you know.
That's when we got apples and oranges and dried raisins and candy and You know, little toys of some sort, but nothing spectacular like the kids have now.
Did you
But they didn't go out for Christmas trees, and maybe hang wreaths in the window, something like that, but we didn't fill with Christmas trees.
How about Christmas decorations? Anything that you put up every year?
You mean then? No, did they just maybe hang wreaths in the window?
What did you do on Christmas Eve? Anything special?
No, just go to bed early. Hope Santa Claus left you some oranges in your box.
Moving on to high school. What was the name of your high school?
Jefferson High School.
And what kind of neighborhood was it in?
It was right across the street from Calvary Baptist Church. It was sort of a business area right on the corner of Camel Avenue and that 6th, 7th Street, somewhere on there.
Did it have a lot of students?
Yeah, it was a big school. Finished in 36.
Do you remember what the hallways looked like,
Mm-mm.
felt like, and sounded like?
No, just like any other school, I guess.
Did you have a high school mascot?
No,
Did you have school colors?
not that I know of.
Who were your friends in high school? Do you remember any of them?
Yeah, a couple of boyfriends.
Mm-hmm. You remember any teachers in high school?
No, none, especially.
Yes.
What was your favorite grade?
12th, the one I finished. The one I got out of.
I asked my Sunday school teacher that today.
What'd she say?
She said 12 too, because
Mhm.
that was cool.
Get out. Did you have any extracurricular activities like working on the school paper or on the sports team?
No,
Officer,
not in high school, no.
cheerleader or anything?
No. Mm-mm.
All right.
Hmm.
What was your favorite subject?
Shorthand typing. Shorthand typing.
Did you attend college?
No.
Okay.
I was lucky to finish high school in those days.
I'm sure. You weren't in the military. Your husband was, but you weren't. Let's see. Do you remember where you were when Pat got his orders for the military?
Well, he didn't get orders. He went down and he volunteered December 8, 1941.
Did he? Let's see.
The war broke out on this, we heard on the Sunday afternoon, December 7th. He and I had been out together.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have a radio in the car. We came home and he dropped me out. Then he went to his house. And then he was going to come back and pick me up that night. And then he went in the front door. He said his mother was sitting in front of the radio crying.
Mm-hmm.
And she had heard about it. Then he came right back up that night. Then we heard about it then.
Mm-hmm.
And he said then he was going down the next morning and enlist.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Well, it wasn't very good. I didn't want him to. Of course, I knew he would.
Mm-hmm.
But he was already, before the war broke out, he knew it was coming. He was already taking some courses, hoping to get into some sort of Air Force training or something. He was taking some kind of courses, and some kind of math courses. And when this happened, this was just what he wanted to do.
Mm.
So he went down and enlisted the next morning. It was like a trance.
Was that, let's see, common among your friends, I guess, to have their boyfriends or husbands or whatever leave for the war?
Well, at that time it was. I mean, after a while they were drafting them, but
My daddy was one of the first two.
he was one of the first two to enlist in Roanoke, because all that's in the paper. He was one of the first.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went to Fort Lee. No, that's where they sent him the very next day. Then he came back through Roanoke on his way to Jefferson Barracks in Missouri. Because I found the telegram the other day where he had, and it says, pick up Meddie and meet me at 6 o'clock at the train station. And he was coming, he left home on Monday morning. This was on a Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday, because it was choir practice. And I forgot all about choir practice. I just took off, and the Pattersons came and got me. And we went down to the train station, and I saw him. He had on his uniform then. He came through, and we had just a short while with him. And he got back on the train, then he went on to Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. That was his first stop.
Did you stay near a stateside base with him?
Yes, and when we got married in Roswell, New Mexico, I lived in town in a hotel, and he was on the base.
Okay.
And he just came in on weekends.
Are we there? What's wrong?
What'd she do?
She said that's enough.
That's enough. That's enough, Christy. Continued.
Well, I didn't want to do this again, I don't think. Get it all over with. Let's see. Who were your friends while your husband was in the service?
They were the wives of the other men whose husbands were in the service.
Okay. But you lived in a hotel?
I lived in a hotel for 6 weeks, the first 6 weeks when we got married. And then in February he got his commission, got his wings, and then we were transferred to Boise, Idaho. That's where we had our first apartment.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for a while. Then we went from there to Rapid City, South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there that he thought he was going overseas, and he sent me home.
Home to Roanoke?
Home to Roanoke in June of '43.
Mm-hmm.
Thought he was going overseas, and then that's the 3 letters upstairs I told Jane about. That I wrote to him, and he had saved them. That I wrote to him, and told him I was glad that we had had 5 months together. And I thought that was it. I thought he was going overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Then he sent me a telegram saying that his pilot had failed part of his training. We had to go back through it again. And for me to come back to Rapid City, South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on a 6-month leave of absence from the telephone company, so I just forgot about them when went back to Rapid City. And we had 4 more months. Then he didn't actually go overseas until October '43.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, we had 9 months together instead of 5 or 6 months like we thought we'd have.
Were your brothers in the service?
Yeah, Kent was in the Navy. He went in, the war was just about over when he went in. He didn't see any action, but Elwood was in with the 1st Marine Division. He was on Cape Gloucester, and he was with the on Guadalcanal first, and then went on to Cape Gloucester and Peleliu and a lot of the islands in the South Pacific. But he was on Guadalcanal when I left home to get married.
Mm-hmm. Was your father in the military?
No. He had to register back in 1915 or 16, whenever it was, but he didn't have to go then because he was married and had a child, and that excused him then.
Mm-hmm.
What about Daddy's brother, Billy? What you gonna work with?
But yeah, Billy was, he jumped D-Day. He was with the 101st Airborne, the Screaming Eagles, and he jumped on D-Day.
Mm-hmm.
So as I told you a while ago, when Pat came back, he went overseas in October '43, and then it was shot down January 29th, 1944. And then I got the telegram on Valentine's Day that he was missing. And then he came back that June 4th, '44. And then we were together, I told you, in Washington, and we got the news that it was D-Day. And then we came back to Roanoke.
That was 50 years ago yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
When he came back.
Mm-hmm. 4.
What was your favorite radio show growing up?
Big Sister.
What did your radio look like?
That's it right there. the top one.
Oh, the little one.
The little one, that's the one that was our first radio.
Oh.
And Mom and I would sit around and listen to that before I went to work at the telephone company. But growing up as a kid, we didn't have radios then. They would build the little crystal sets.
Mm-hmm.
But that radio was bought about 1933, I think is the date on it. We'll look it up and see. But that's the first real radio we ever had.
What room was the radio in?
Dining room. But the policeman next door used to have a radio, and we would go over there at their house and listen to Santa Claus read letters. Santa Claus, you know, you'd write him letters, and he would read the letters. And that was the first time I ever had contact with a real radio.
Did your family sit around and listen to programs together?
No, just Mom and I was sitting there and listening to some of the shows.
And was that during the day or at night?
Mostly during the day before I went to work, because I was working 3 to 11.
So you just sat around the table in the dining room?
We sat around the table as the little radio was on. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever go see a favorite performer in concert when you were young?
No.
Let's see. Do you remember what company sponsored any radio shows?
No, I don't remember.
Commercials or anything? Even though you couldn't see the actors, did you have pictures of what they looked like in your mind?
No, I never paid that much attention to them.
What radio station do you listen to now? Do you know?
FM 98.
Okay.
Which unfortunately is not very easy listening anymore.
Do you ever listen to talk radio?
Not much.
Commercial? Come on.
It says so right here. Have your taste in entertainment been fairly mainstream, or have you gone for more unusual music or cinema?
Listen to heavy metal.
No, I don't care about heavy metal. That doesn't appeal to me.
Man, what do you prefer in music? Country music, or rhythm and blues, or classical, or easy listening?
Easy listening.
All right. What was your first job?
Sales clerk at W.T. Grant Company when I was 15 years old and 8 months, making 33 cents an hour.
Wow.
And I had to get a special permit because I wasn't 16 and I couldn't work but 6 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was working at Grant's at the, you know, it's just like, it was a dime store.
You took pictures, didn't you?
And I worked in the studio, took pictures, and I sold material, and I worked in all the different departments in the store.
Do you remember your first kiss?
No. But I wouldn't tell you. No, I really,
You're talking to them.
I know, I don't remember.
What kind of dating did you do in high school? Or did you?
A little.
I mean, did you go
Go to a movie.
to a show, as they say?
The boys didn't have cars. Most of them, they could walk up, ride the bus up and walk all the way up top of the hill to Mormon Road. Then you'd walk all the way back down to Melrose Avenue and catch a bus and ride the bus to Shirley and ride the bus home. But they didn't do dating like they do now. I mean, the boys' parents didn't come and pick up the girls and take them places. They just didn't do that. That wasn't dating that early.
Did you know when you first met your husband that he would be your life's partner?
No. No, I didn't know that. Mm-mm.
All right. Describe your wedding.
It was in an army chapel in Roswell, New Mexico. And my bridesmaid was a girl I had never seen before. She was a maid of honor. She was the wife of one of the men in Pat's group. And then the two boys with him, the best man, and was two of them in the picture. They were his friends. But he had made all the arrangements for the wedding. Then there was a reception at the hotel that night for another couple that got married that same night, too. So they had a big wedding reception at the hotel.
Do you remember what you wore?
Wore a light blue suit.
Picture of it's fantastic.
And how about your husband?
He wore his army uniform.
Okay. Do you remember telling your husband that you were going to have a baby? When that happened? When Gail was...
Well, we were planning it. We were excited when we knew that had really happened, if that's what you mean.
Was it a...
It was a planned thing, yes.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean that. I mean, do you remember telling your parents? Or were your parents
Yes.
alive?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And they were excited for me.
Well, you've been married
6 years.
6 years.
mhm. Why did you name your children what you named them? Gail and Jane.
Well, Katherine was after me,
Katherine and Gail.
and the Gail was just a name that I liked. And I don't know where I got the name Jane. But the Denise was, your daddy liked the name Denise. There was a little girl that he knew, a little blonde-headed girl, when he was overseas in one of the homes that he stayed in. In fact, we have a picture of her. Her name was Denise. That's where we got the Denise.
Which hospital did you deliver in?
Well, Gail was at Lewis Gale Hospital in Roanoke. It's the old Lewis Gale, not the one that Mama was in several years ago. And Jane was at the Petersburg General Hospital in Petersburg.
Do you remember the ride to the hospital?
Yeah, I remember Jane almost came before we got there. I remember that.
Oh, in a hurry.
Was it hard to get back in shape after you delivered?
No.
Oh, listen to that, Jane.
No problem.
I'm still trying. Chrissy's 11 now.
Who was the first person you called to say it's a boy or it's a girl?
Probably my mama.
Can you remember what you said when the doctor or nurse first handed you the baby? Or a baby? These are some strange questions.
No.
All right.
I remember the nurse told me that Gail, she said, I said something about her eyes. She said, well, all babies have blue eyes. I said, well, this one doesn't. Because Gail opened her eyes, they were just as brown as they are right now.
Dark eyes. The house that you were raised in with your family, was that big enough? Did everybody have plenty of room?
Yes, it was pretty big. After they added the upstairs for the boys. Then they finished the basement. The basement, when I was real little, was a kid, it was a dirt basement. And it was dug out and finished, made into a concrete basement.
What about your father? What did he do?
He was on the railroad. He and his brother and his uncle all came to Roanoke about 1918, I guess. I was about 4 months old. They all came to Roanoke and got jobs on the railroad because the NW was really booming then. And these men, they were all farmers. They all came to Roanoke. And Daddy and Uncle Jake, St. Clair, Roy and Raymond St. Clair's daddy, they rented a house over on Shenandoah Avenue, a big two-story house. And Mom and Dad and Duval and I lived upstairs, and Aunt Abby and Uncle Jake and their children lived downstairs. That was for about a year. And then Mom and Dad bought the house that they lived in for 75 years, and then Uncle Jake and Aunt Abby went up in the next block and bought a house up there.
How old was your father when he got hurt on the railroad?
Well, it was before Kenneth was born. I mean, Mom was expecting Kenneth.
And what happened?
He fell on the railroad and hurt had a spinal injury. Something tripped and he fell and struck his back. Because somebody from the railroad called Mom and told her he was injured. And she said she remembers asking him, before did you get this number? How'd you know to call me? And he had told them. And then she knew then that he wasn't that seriously injured.
You remember his phone number?
He knew how to get, he knew his phone number.
He was out of work?
Well, he wasn't able to work for maybe a year. He was off from work.
What?
Where's the farthest away place you've been away from home?
Oh, around New Mexico.
Well,
Or did you go to California one time?
South?
no, I've never been to California. Yeah, we went to San Francisco.
We took you, but
That's good, yeah.
yeah, I guess that was it.
But the fun.
That's
No,
all
I
we get still be in our country.
how about Walla Walla, Washington,
That was
Spokane, Washington? Because when Pat went overseas the last time, when he really did go in in October 43, October 44, when he did go overseas. It was October 43 because we were married January 43. It was October 43. I was in Walla Walla, Washington, and I got the train, came home from there by myself. And Walla Walla, Washington is right in the corner of the country, as far as where he flew out. He flew to New York and went over on the, I don't know if it was Elizabeth or the Queen Mary, whatever the troop ship was, and I came home on the train. Took me about 3 or 4 days to get home.